The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here in FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. November 7th is quickly approaching, and that'll be the municipal election. And as we did during the preliminary election, we're speaking to as many candidates as possible between now and Election Day so you can make informed choices when you vote. I'm pleased to be joined today by one of the 18 candidates for City Council, Paulo Amaral. Paulo also joined us for the preliminary. Paul, thank you for joining me again. I appreciate it.
Keith, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate that.
Let me ask you, what were your thoughts from the preliminary? You just got in at 18, but what were your thoughts about that process? And I guess what have you learned and what do you hope to, make up between now and November 7th?
Well, first of all, I'm hoping that the general election brings out more people. I think what we had for the voter turnout was a little disappointing, to be honest with you. And I think some of the more hardcore voters went there to back their supporters, but I'm hoping in the general election you have more representation from the city and not just the hardcore voters, and I think that might make the difference for other candidates. So my hope is that people show up and turn up because it's very important that we vote. We need to let our voices be heard, and the way to do that is to vote.
When you go out door to door or speaking to people at events, do they tell you, yes, I'm going to vote, but you really don't know whether they do you? So I mean, it must be disheartening when you're walking, talking to people, they come through with some interest, but they may not follow through.
That's correct. I mean, for example, look at the voter by mail. We sent out, I think it was 7,000 ballots, and over 2,000 weren't returned. So when you do go door to door, they're concerned, they want to talk to you, they say, okay, I understand what your platform is, I'm going to vote for you. But whether they do it or not, then it becomes their responsibility. Like I said, I encourage everybody to participate in the elections and make their voice heard, but that really is up to the individual. And hopefully on the general election, November 7th, we have a much better turnout than we did for the prelim.
Part of your visit with us includes a candidate statement that you can also see on FRC Media and online that you recorded prior to this interview. And you're still concerned about affordability for a lot of people, and also the fact that Fall River may be changing. There's a lot that's going to be happening in Fall River. Talk about that.
Well, I think in the next few years, it's going to be very vital and important that we position ourselves, in the right place. That's going to not only help our current citizens, lifelong residents here in Fall River, but take into account the influx of people that we have here. And what I mean by that is we're going to have, right now in the pipeline, we have about 2,500 units, housing units, being built in Fall River. If you average that out by a 3-person family, that's another 7,000 residents about. So when we have that influx of people coming in for Fall River, what's going to happen is it's going to put additional stress on the resources that we have. For example, education, school sizes, classroom sizes, police and fire, infrastructure, and also trash collecting. Those are very important things. It's not only attracting these people in here, it's planning for the future in order to make sure that these limited resources that we have is able to, help everybody in the city, the lifelong residents and those new people coming in here. So I think that's really important that we take that into account and that we have that planning going on.
We talked about this prior to the preliminary about affordability and how rents on the rise, people having a difficult time. That may worsen in some aspects based on what you just talked about.
Right.
I guess how, as a city councilor, can you help abate that?
Well, exactly. So when you have an influx of people coming into the city, what that does is, it drives demand for housing units. When the demand goes up, obviously the prices go up. And as you know, Fall River has very limited land on what you can build these days. So that further puts a hamper on housing units. So what we can do is, as a city, is we can help the homeowner, those people that share most of the burden when it comes to paying taxes and sewer and water rates. We can help them. Like I said, I propose that we take a break from our water and sewer rates. And this is not a perpetual thing, but at least for the next couple of years, to give some relief to the homeowner in hopes that they can pass it down to the renters. So those are things we can do. Another thing that we can do is, really revisit the tax abatements that we have for seniors and elderly. I think that program needs to be revamped and it needs to be made clear, and we need to be able to say, okay, this is, give them a list of things that they need to meet and give them those abatements, those tax abatements, and help them out. I think we need to help out the people that have property in this city in order for those people to help out the renters. Because what happens is when you pass costs down to the property owners, they have no choice in a lot of circumstances. They have to pass it down to the renters. And I think if we help the property owners, the renters, and the people coming in here would also be helped. And that's what I hope we can do.
Now, part of that has to do with the city budget, which the council obviously approves every year. How closely would you look at that budget and find ways through the budget process to cut in order to make those taxes a little more affordable?
Well, look, I don't even remember the last time we had an independent audit or a zero-based budget. If you look at all the departments in the budget, all right, we have almost a $400 million budget. 160 million is net school spending, but nonetheless it's almost 400 million. If you look at the budget and you look at each department, every department by default at least has a 3 to 5% increase. And they do this every year because they know they got to spend the money and they got to go ahead and get more money into the departments. When are we going to take zero-based budgeting and say, okay, tell me a list of things that you need, start adding that, and then that's going to be a budget. Instead, what we do is we automatically go ahead and put into these budgets for these departments a 3 to 5% increase. I mean, look at our transportation that we're paying for schools. That's $10 million. Look at the sewer. Sewer is right now, I believe it's $30 million just for sewer. And again, there's always a 3 to 4% increase. You look at water, $15 million, 3 to 4% increase. And I don't believe, when you look at the water and sewer, which I propose that I would vote no on increased rates, that we can do more. We have half of our ARPA money that we can be used for infrastructure costs and to help out the water department. So there's things that we can do. Looking at the budget, where can we cut? Zero-based budgeting, independent audits. Those are all things that we can do in order to look for savings in the budget. And when you look for savings, what you do is you don't have to necessarily go to the taxpayer and say, okay, we're going to increase your taxes to this rate or that rate. So saving, knowing how to save is very, very important. And that's what the city is lacking, in my opinion.
Yeah. Looking as the city continues to grow with the work being done on Route 79, we don't know what that plan is yet. It's going to put a lot more strain. You mentioned about general services, but maybe particular with our public safety. And there's been issues with public safety in the short term, trying to get enough police officers. That burden will be even greater. How do you address that?
Well, if you look at that, in the budget right now, we have positioned 298 police officers. That's 2 police officers less than the prior fiscal budget. So absolutely, we have 200 firefighters that are positioned in the budget, and like I said, 298 police officers. For a city that's growing, like I said before, if people start coming in here and we have suddenly an influx of 7,000, 7,500 people coming into this city, absolutely we're going to need to have more police officers in this city. It's public safety is definitely going to change, and first responders, and like I said, school. A lot of these resources that we have now are going to, we have to figure out a way how we can make this work for this new Fall River that's going to include maybe a city of 100,000 or more residents. So it's very important that we save and then reallocate money from one department to another and have our priorities straight.
How do you envision working with 8 others? To get anything passed in the city council, you need 5 votes. So you need to get 4 other councilors to support you. How do you envision that type of relationship if elected? Well,
I'm a nonsense person. I don't look, I look at things objectively. I look at facts, and that's the way I vote. I look at what's going to benefit the citizen and the resident of Fall River, the property owner, and the person renting. So to me, it's very simple. I look at those facts. I look how it's going to impact the city, and I vote that way. I look forward, if I get elected, if I'm privileged to get elected, to working with other councilors. Like I said, I'm willing to listen, to share ideas, and I just hope that I bring a new mindset to the city council And even if it's not me, some of the newer people running, we can bring a new mindset and change how things are done. Because look, you know, things are, the same people that were in the city council 30 years ago are there now. And really, what has changed? Change can only come if we elect new candidates. And I'm willing to go ahead and be part of that change and to work for the city.
And with that, I want to thank you for joining me, Paulo. I appreciate it, and good luck in the election, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Keith. I really appreciate it.
All right, and thank you for joining us here on FRC Media. Please make a point to vote on Tuesday, November 7th.